Welcome back to more ReZero. Links in the description for the past videos. Last time, Subaru finally made it to Sanctuary, met a witch, almost got killed by Garfield, and now Roswaal is going to explain what the fuck is going on. Amelia and Subaru. It feels like it's been so long since I last saw you. I was going to slug you when I saw you again, but now, what the heck happened? Well, now, where shall I begin? Before that, just one thing. The alliance with Crochet is on. Now, are you satisfied with the results you got from abandoning me? Yes, most satisfied. Truly, you are the once-in-a-lifetime windfall I had waited for. The original plan was to have Rem start the negotiations and then have Subaru come in and take over. At least that's the way it seemed to me. But now Rem is gone, so I guess for Roswaal, the plan changed to Subaru was always in charge of the entire process, which I guess isn't really that different from the original plan. This whole conversation is pretty similar to what it is in the light novel. It's just simplified down for the anime. So all the information is there. I'm not going to go over all the extra words. One of the few differences is the level of emotion that everyone has. Amelia is more forceful than she is in the anime. I mean, she's still freaking out about everything that's going on around her and is pretty tense. Roswaal is more excited about Subaru's growth and loves to keep bringing it up. I mean, that could just be the difference in media. It could be that the novel has to explain more. I don't know. It comes off as he's more excited about it, but it could just be nothing. In the web novel, Amelia is super timid. Like she is just distracted by everything that's happening and just let Subaru do all of the talking. And it really feels like Topei just wasn't sure what he wanted Amelia to be doing and feeling in this situation. Roswaal, what is this place? I've heard it called the Sanctuary, but it doesn't seem like one to me at all. In fact, it feels more like the witch's graveyard. Does it seem to make far more sense to call it that? This is where the Witch of Greed, Echidna, met her end long ago, and in my mind, it's worth being called the Sanctuary. Subaru hears Echidna, and it sounds familiar, but his memories were taken or sealed or whatever. He remembers, but doesn't remember. It's the same thing that's happened several times already. In the web novel, Amelia says that she can't feel the spirits as well within Sanctuary, and that she feels like she's constantly being watched, which does go a long way to explain why she is so distracted. And why are you overseeing a place with that kind of backstory? This land has been overseen by the heads of the Mathers family for generations. Then the Mathers family and the Witch of Greed have Echidna. Please, when you speak of her, do use her name. The name Witch of Greed makes her sound so evil. That's not very nice, is it? I realize that the other witches aren't as infamous as Envy, but no one's reacting to what he's saying. I feel like what he's saying is super weird, but neither Amelia or Subaru is acting like his statements are that weird. And how did you end up in such a sorry state? Do you not find it all strange that all the people who fled the sanctuary, as well as Roswaal and myself, stayed here? I mean, you stayed here because you're hurt, right? We are all being held under house arrest here in Sanctuary. All of us, you two as well, from the moment that you entered here. At that moment, Garfield opens the door. The hell? You guys are still flapping your gums in here? House arrest? Then are Roswaal's injuries... Nope, he got hurt because he was rejected by the trial. This goes by super quick in the anime, but it is a lot more tense in the light novel. Amelia, Subaru, and Garfield are all ready to throw down, and the only reason they don't is because Ram intervenes. And by intervenes, I mean she throws a metal tray at Garfield's face. What does that mean? You've seen what happens when you come into contact with the barrier, right? Mixed bloods who go through that and still come in here are never allowed to leave. Does that mean Amelia too? That barrier doesn't mean squat to most people. Doesn't that seem a little unfair? The only way to break that barrier is to go through the graveyard's trial. But if anyone who isn't mixed blood tries it, he looks at Roswaal, confirming the trial's punishment. All the villagers are rounded up in one place. So as long as they don't act up, we won't hurt them. That is our demand. Break the barrier that surrounds this sanctuary. The only one allowed to undergo the trial to do that is you, Amelia. If you can't break it, we won't let any of the villagers leave. A few differences to point out here. First off, the light novel combines this conversation with another conversation that happens later on in the anime. I guess the anime just split up these conversations into two different ones, and I'll wait and discuss that part of it whenever the anime brings it up. Second, the light novel is more clear on one very important thing: the reason for the crystal and why Frederica is seen as a possible enemy. So let's look at this as if everything had gone to plan. They cross the barrier, Amelia passes out, and then she is the one that is teleported. The girl that Subaru saw was probably there to pick up her unconscious body and take her somewhere else. This means that Subaru and Otto would be going into Sanctuary with Amelia now missing. They would then learn that everyone is being held hostage by Garfield, the one person that Frederica told them to be worried about. And at that point, I can see it appearing like they are working together to capture Amelia. I mean, Garfield set up the whole situation that got them there in the first place, and Frederica set up the way to capture her, to do something. I don't know. I don't know what the end goal would be for this, but it does help to explain why everyone thinks that Frederica might be up to something nefarious. And I'm a little upset that my dumbass didn't see this before. Third, the web novel is all over the fucking place. The order is completely different, and it's going to be kind of hard for me to keep all of this separate, but I'll do my best. They don't talk about being held hostage. Garfield comes in and interrupts the conversation, and instead of explaining everything, Roswaal has them go to the graveyard so that they can see if Amelia is qualified to take the trial. Something that's not really explained in the other versions, but I mean, it's apparent enough. The trial only starts at night, so Amelia can try to go into the graveyard now, and the lights will come on to show that she is qualified, but the trial won't start. So they go to the graveyard for the first time, and they have no idea what the fuck is going on. Something about a trial, but according to the translator of the web novel, the word trial in Japanese is the same word that's used by Betelgeuse in the last arc, talking about the ordeal that they were going to put Amelia through. So Subaru is a bit on edge. Garfield says that he can't take the trial because of a contract. The contract is basically that only qualified non-residents can get rid of the barrier. So they are all stuck there until an outsider comes in to clear the trial. Subaru convinces Amelia to let him go in first, and Garfield tries to explain what'll happen if he goes in and he's not qualified, but he does it anyway. And then he passes out the second he goes in. And this is the first time that he meets Echidna in the web novel. Their conversation is somewhat like the other versions, with some extra stuff. He meets Echidna in the graveyard and is then teleported to the grassy field. At least that's what it looks like to Subaru. In reality, he passed out the very first step he went into the graveyard, the tomb, and the rest of this has just been a dream. Some stuff happens here that doesn't happen until later in the other versions. Some more people show up, but I'm going to wait until the anime brings it up before I talk about those differences. We learned that Echidna knew Reed Astrea, who is the first Sword Saint, and the dragon Volcanica. And actually she says that Volcanica is the one who tied her spirit here. And I'm not sure if he did it himself, but he is the one that wanted it done at the very least. She is supposedly part of the backup plan in case Envy ever gets free. And I'm not so sure that's true. She says that she doesn't know anything about the trial since it was made after she died. But at the same time, she is able to give Subaru the ability to take the trial. She definitely comes off more conniving in the web novel than she does in any other version. And kind of because of that, she doesn't have the over-the-top expressions that she does in the anime and the light novel. Which, means that the web novel is the worst version of her. She also knows the first Roswaal and Puck. And in case it's not obvious, Roswaal Mathers is just the name that's passed down through the generations. So the first one was Roswaal A. Mathers, and the current one is Roswaal L. Mathers. In case I think you can figure out the pattern there. So her knowing the first Roswaal isn't really that surprising, but knowing Puck is. And she actually asked if Puck remembers everything. And it's not like her asking Subaru, it's more of just her thinking out loud. And she doesn't really add anything else after that. So there's definitely more there, but we don't get anything else at the moment. Subaru didn't get as hurt as Roswaal because of his gait. The way that it's explained, there's witch miasma in the graveyard, and the miasma is absorbed through the gate in the same way that mana is. Roswaal's gate works pretty well at pulling in mana, which means that he also pulls in a lot of miasma. Subaru doesn't take in that much miasma because his gate sucks ass. If you're not qualified to take the trial, then the miasma starts to fuck with you from the inside out. Roswaal's blood tries to escape, and Subaru passes out. Garfield then sees that the lights come on whenever Amelia goes to get Subaru, so they know that she is qualified. And the anime makes it seem like the entire building lights up, but it seems more like it's just the lights on the inside of the building for the web novel. Subaru opens up the giant doors to the church where the villagers are being held. Excited to see him, everyone gathers around. Okay, everyone, listen up. As you know, we got rid of the bad guy who was attacking the village. The other group is back at the village, waiting on all of you to come home. Their happiness turns to sadness. I guess you've all been informed that it's not easy to get out of here. But don't worry, we've got someone who's going to undergo the trial to see that you're all free. Amelia walks in, and shock spreads through the group. I'm sorry you all had to wait so long. In the place of your domain lord, Roswaal L. Mathers, I will be undergoing the trial. I would appreciate your support. The village chief walks forward. Let me ask you just one thing. Why do this? If it's because you want us to back you in the royal selection, that's just fine, so long as you come out and say so. But if you have some other reason, we would like to know that you're not a witch who is beyond our comprehension. I've said before that Amelia is a witch, in the sense that she has been called the Witch of Frost. And I don't know what qualifications someone needs to actually be a witch. The villagers have been told of the royal selection candidates, Amelia included, and I would imagine that they've also heard of the rumors about her. So it's not really that surprising that they think of her as a witch. But they are all trapped. They can't really ignore her and hope that she goes away. Can't be a dick because she might go crazy and they can't really run. So next best option is to keep the peace. But they are still scared. And they're just hoping that she's not secretly crazy. Though it was not for long, I spent a few days with your families, the ones who aren't here now, and it made me realize that families should be together. I want to return all of you to your families. I didn't promise them that I'd do so, but I promised myself. That's my only reason. I wasn't really thinking about earning your support or anything, but if possible, I'd like to, be friends with you all. That's what I want. Amelia, I realize this will sound like we only care about what benefits us, but I pray you will accept our friendship. It cannot be understated how much Subaru is helping in this situation. The villagers don't trust Amelia. They trust Subaru. He is the one that put in the work every day to gain their trust. That's why they were okay with evacuating. That's why they were excited to see him. They know that he is looking out for them. When Subaru passes on the torch to Amelia, it doesn't completely pass off the trust to her, but it does make the villagers more willing to hear her out without dismissing her. I mean, in the last arc, she tried going to the village by herself to convince them to come to the castle before the cult attack, and they just blew her off. She is only able to have this conversation and have it go well because of Subaru. I don't think any of them really thought about the situation that much to realize that. I don't think he planned this from the beginning or anything. Well, it's Subaru. I think we all know he didn't plan that far ahead. But still, regardless, it is still a really good job on Subaru's part. And again, this conversation with the villagers and the next conversation with Ram does not happen in the web novel. Amelia seems to have changed a bit. Is it because of something you said to her? It's the result of her thinking things through on her own. You shouldn't assume all of her decisions come from someone else. You're right. I was in the wrong this time. I'm not sure I would agree that Amelia has changed. She's always been kind and has tried to help out as many people as possible. The only thing that's really different is that she is better at articulating her feelings. And that, I would say, is because of Subaru. The overall point stands, I guess, as she is a little more confident, and Ram is starting to see a little more potential in her, and that will be important for later. Once again, the light novel has this conversation go on longer, and the anime decides to just split it up into two different conversations. So I'll point out the differences here whenever we get to that in the anime. Okay, we've got our first problem for this arc. Amelia will have to take the trial in order to break the barrier so that everybody can go home. And it is not going to be that simple, because it's never simple. The web novel adds another scene here. So the other versions just skip to that night so that they can do the trial. But the web novel decides to wait another day. So the next morning, Subaru goes to the graveyard with Otto. The payment that Echidna takes is a little bit different. He can't talk about the trial, but he can remember it. So he actually knows that he is qualified to take the trial. So on this morning, he ties a rope around himself and tries to walk into the graveyard again. He doesn't go in too far, just enough to check. And he ties the rope around him so that if he passes out, Otto can just pull him out of there. But the lights come on, they confirm that he can take the trial, and he gets out of there just in time for Garfield to show up and wonder what the fuck they're doing. But more on that later. There is a little bit about Otto knowing some essentially illusion magic, like being able to silence his footsteps, and Subaru jokes that it would make him a good thief. And when I read this, I originally thought that this entire conversation was just a little bit of a joke. Basically, Otto saying, "Oh, I'm actually a thief," kind of thing. But then I realized it might not actually be a joke. He may be able to use some low-level magic that has been tailor-made so that he can be sneaky. So I don't know if that is an actual thing or not, but it is there. And for now, I'm going to kind of lean towards it being just a joke. But if it comes back up, this is where it was brought up. That night, Amelia prepares to take the trial. Subaru cheers her on. "You can do it. Don't give up. EMC." Emilia Magi Challenger. I'm going with some English on this one, I guess. So in case you don't remember, EMT is the normal acronym. Stands for Emilia Magi Tenchi. And I think the sub goes with Amelia is seriously an angel. He just changes the last letter to be whatever he is wanting to say. It's EMD in the light novel, which is determined or something, I don't know. It's EMK in the web novel, which is chivalrous, I guess, according to the translator. Anyway, the letters generally match up with the Japanese romanji of the word. I guess in a few situations, he just uses the English, thus using words that no one else knows, just like Garfield. The graveyard glows. That means she's been approved as a qualified challenger in the trial. I get that it sucks being trapped here, but why don't you do this yourself? If I could, I would, damn it. We've already gone over this for the web novel. This is when the anime and the light novel bring it up. The light novel explains it in detail, the anime does not. The graveyard stops glowing. Hey, is she gonna be okay? The light's not supposed to go out as long as the trial's going on. Subaru freaks out and runs in. The graveyard lights up again, showing that Subaru can take the trial. We know that Subaru can take the trial, but no one else knows that. including Subaru. He doesn't remember his conversation with Echidna. So the only version that this makes sense in is the web novel. I mean, we saw the results of what happened to Roswell whenever he tried to go in when he wasn't qualified. So Subaru is either hoping that he can just tank the damage, or more likely he's just not thinking at all. But I guess this does kind of match with what happened in the web novel. He's just going to risk it anyway, so I guess it at least matches with his personality. Getting to the first room, Subaru finds Amelia face down on the ground. Before he can get to her, he hears a voice. First, you need to face your own past. His vision blurs as he falls to the ground and passes out. When he opens his eyes again, he finds himself in bed. His bed. Back in Japan. Two things. First, there are a lot of anime figurines and posters around his room that have silver or white hair girls. So it's very apparent that he has a type. Second, he doesn't remember going to the other world. To him, this is just another day in Japan. But spoilers, this is the trial, so he is not back home. Which is slightly confusing to me. Later on, we see Amelia's trial, and she remembers what happens right before she goes in. So I don't know how this whole memory aspect works within the trial. I would imagine it just depends on the person, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll discuss this later when it comes back up. Good morning, son of mine. What's the problem? You train every day and yet you still lose to one middle-aged man? Letting me get a counter in. You're getting old, Pops. Excuse me, you two. I'm getting hungry. I'd like to eat breakfast now. Ah, sorry about that. I got a little carried away with my one-on-one time with Subaru. You could have started without us. Why would I do that when the whole family could eat together? Come on, Subaru. Time for breakfast. I put in extra effort today, just for you. We get a quick look at Subaru's parents, and they seem like pretty good people. Subaru's dad is pretty much just Ichigo's dad from Bleach. I mean, I'm not gay, but look at these abs. Subaru training every day is something that we already knew. Back in the first arc, he says that he could crush an apple with just his grip strength. So, Subaru's not weak, he's just surrounded by superhumans. Wow, Subaru, your bowl is a forest of green. Mom, why did you give me so many peas? It's not good to be picky about your food. I thought this might be a good chance to get you over that. What chance? This isn't a special day or anything. Very naive of you, Subaru. Today is... No. Every moment of every day is a precious, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's pretty decent advice, and it is immediately ruined because no one actually wants to eat the peas and they just pass the plate around. Eventually it does get eaten, though. I don't think this is a typical day. I don't think they normally eat breakfast together, but his dad's off work today, so they are all eating. And I think that it does show how good their family relationship is, and it shows that they have a really good family dynamic. Now, let's get all these dishes to the sink, and then we'll race to school to help us digest. Quit making this a scenario that ends with me going to school. I'm sleeping until noon. Pain shoots through his head. He said at the beginning and several times since then that he was a shut-in, but it looks like he wasn't doing it for very long before he got zooped into another world. This pain is explained later on, but I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. It is guilt and shame. He is running away from his problems, and he knows that he should be doing something about it, but he doesn't want to deal with that pain that he was dealing with before. In his room, he does the same thing that we all do, where he stares at the clock and he waits until it's a minute past the time that he was supposed to start doing whatever he was supposed to start doing. And now that it's after the time, he'll just have to do nothing the rest of the day. And we all do that, right? I'm not the only one who does that. Anyway, his dad comes in his room. Subaru, is there a girl you like? Are we in middle school now? What do you actually want? The weather's nice, so let's have a nice father-son talk outside. As they walk, they go by a lot of people happy to see them. More specifically, happy to see Kenichi. Subaru is just like his dad. His dad even makes the same stupid pose that Subaru made way back at the beginning of the anime. But Kenichi is very social. He's described as making friends with pretty much anybody, old people, people his age, high school girls. It's not as bad as it sounds. He's just super friendly. Now you might think that doesn't describe Subaru at all, but I'd argue Subaru is actually pretty decent at talking to new people. He's just more awkward, so it doesn't come off as well as it does for Kenichi. I'm not going to tell you anything scary. It's more of a father son subject. Ken, my boy, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh? Don't tell me that's. Yep, that's right. He's my son. Actually, I should say that he's my pride and joy. He looks so much like you did when you were. Actually, no, you don't. Do you take after your mother? As a reminder, Subaru's eyes match his mom's, and it's called Sampaku. And that's, let me see if I can do this. My loud ass chair here. All right. So normally you see the whites of the eyes on the side whenever someone is just looking like straight at you. But someone with Sanpaku, you would see either like extra like bottom of the eye or maybe the top of the eye. I can't do the top very well. But basically you see more of the whites around their eye than you would uh, normally, I guess. And for some people, this is seen as a bad omen. I don't personally get it, but that is what they're referring to. Shit, now that I'm looking at this, I'm kind of borderlining here on having this. Like, my eyes are just barely hitting the bottom of my iris half the time. Maybe that's why I have resting bitch face. That's really what it is. Come to think of it, today's Monday, isn't it? What are you doing out here with your dad at this hour? Pain shoots through Subaru's head. He walks away and finds a place to sit down. He is reminded of his failures and his brain is trembling, hurting. His brain is hurting. Here you go. A tasty ice cold cola packed with my love. Subaru points it away from himself and opens it. The soda spews everywhere. I know how you think. Ugh, my hand's all sticky now. Listen, Subaru, not to change the subject, but is there a girl you like? Subaru. Wait, did someone just say my name? What the heck was that? So, is there a girl you like? Why do you keep asking me that? You can stop beating around the bush. Just come out and ask why I didn't go to school. And here I was trying to be considerate for once. Well, that is what I wanted to talk about, so you're not wrong. I know it's disrespectful to you and Mom. There's no need to feel that way. I do have the vague sense that you have your reasons for it, and even if you don't, I'm prepared to brush it off as something that I can't do anything about. I don't know about the rest of the world, but I personally don't believe that school is everything. It's more apparent in the novels, but Kenichi didn't take school very serious. He acted a lot like Subaru did when he was younger, except he also acted that way in middle school and high school. He didn't even go to his graduation at all. In the light novel, he didn't get his diploma until a few years later when he went to Naoko's graduation. And in the web novel, they gave it to his sister during her graduation a few years later because he just didn't go get it at all. And honestly, I'm a little surprised he graduated. And his life is pretty great now. He's got a good job, he's got a loving family, he's in great shape, his community loves him. Man's got it made. So it makes sense that he wouldn't see school as that big a deal. Why? Why didn't you suddenly decide to tell me all of this today? It's not like today's special or anything. I'm not sure why. I guess the look on your face this morning seemed a little better. Your face still looks like a bad guy's, with those mean eyes you got from your mom. Nothing about me has changed. That's how I want it. That's how Are you okay? It's been rough, hasn't it? Who are you? I think you're much more amazing than me. Seeing her face, Subaru remembers everything. Sorry, I'm fine now. And about what you asked me, there is a girl that I like, so I'll be okay now. I remember everything now. What I was so freaked out about, and why I was cowering in fear. No, that's not right. I already knew all of it. I was pretending I didn't see it. I wanted you and Mom to call out my weakness, since I was the only one in pain. To tell me that I was an unbelievably small person, an idiot who's never good enough, and a self righteous scumbag. I wanted you both to beat that into me and make me want to give up. I've always had this way of somehow managing to squeak through anything, you know? But I don't know when it started. I was no longer the best at things I used to be the best at. What used to be my best grew smaller and smaller. Working my hardest seemed stupid. Making everyone laugh seemed way cooler to me, and I was way better at it. But if I kept that up, it became more apparent that I'd always have to do something bigger the next time. I didn't want people to think that I was boring. I thought I could do anything. I made everyone think that I would do anything. And so the things that I did got dumber and dumber. I was out of control, not thinking about anything. The novels use a metaphor of losing sight of the stars by focusing on one, similar to losing sight of the forest through the trees. But I think switching to stars is a great move for this story. Stars becomes a very big plot point going forward. So I think introducing it now is a great job for the overall story. But the next thing I knew, I was looking around and no one was left but me. That's when I realized that there was nothing special about me at all. You're definitely his kid. From then on, I just spent all of my time trying not to stand out. That's how I got through middle school. Then when I got to high school, I gotta say I blew up my big high school debut. And then it occurred to me, I just didn't want to go to school. It all just snowballed from there. One day a week skipping school turned into every 3 days, then every other day. It didn't take even 3 months before I stopped going at all. But no matter how pathetic I was, you and Mom still treated me the same as always. That's what scared me most of all. I wanted you to say, I don't love you, you're not my son. I wanted you to give up on me, but it's easy to give up, but it doesn't suit you. Subaru. Father, headbutt. That was an axe kick. But you know, you're pretty dumb, aren't you? You wanted me to hate you? So you tried to achieve that by playing hooky? Are you dumb? Who would ditch their own kid just because he retreated into his shell? You're so twisted, you're on the fast track to being an idiot. I'd be glad to set you straight by force if you want, but it looks like you've already been knocked down and stood yourself back up, so there's no need. Remember what I said? I found a girl that I like. Plus, there's a girl who said that she loved me despite the way that I am. And neither of them knows that I'm the son of Kenichi Natsuki. In their eyes, I'm just Subaru. No, in all of their eyes, I was just Subaru. I finally figured that out. Took you long enough. You're just now coming around to seeing all of this? Still, it's my fault for not realizing that you thought so highly of your awesome dad. Sorry, I was just too big a part of your life. I really don't want to admit that's true, even though it is. That's the backstory. That's the reason why Subaru was a shut in, and the reason why his self esteem is so shit. He wanted to be like his dad, who he saw as a great man, but he realized that he's just normal. His source of pride got turned into a source of shame at a young age, and he just couldn't recover. Instead of fixing that feeling, he just ran away. He stopped being himself and just tried to stay invisible. In high school, he tried to come back out of his shell, but at that point, he had been spent years without any friends, so he was super awkward. He went back to holding everything in and just avoiding people, which eventually led to him not going to school at all. That helped with the pain of loneliness that he was having at school, but then it added the shame because he thought that his parents were disappointed. He wanted to be disowned. He wanted them to throw him out. So at the very least, his failures wouldn't reflect badly on them. Despite everything that's happened, he still loves them, and he doesn't want them to suffer because of his actions or inactions. And none of this was conscious. I don't think he was doing this on purpose. I think he just now realized that he was doing it at all. So it's very likely that he would have never gotten better if he would have stayed in Japan. But that's just a guess. There's really no way of know. His dad's response to this is fucking great. He calls out Subaru's half-assed attempt to pass off the responsibility to his parents, because that's kind of what he was doing. But he also lets him know that his failures aren't really that disappointing to him, because that's not what's important. What's important is Subaru's happiness. And it's exactly what Subaru needs to hear. Granted, he's already solved a lot of the issues, some of the issues, by being in the new world, but this is a massive push to help him get over that past trauma. Also in the novel, Subaru says that he loves two girls. His dad calls him a two-timer. Subaru says that it is what it is. He can't help that he loves two girls. And his dad ends it with, as long as you're happy and it's not illegal. Now all that's left is to talk about the future. Oh, sure. Sorry for putting you through. If you feel sorry, all you gotta do is take your time making it up to us. Take good care of your mom and me when we're old, my eldest son. Reality hits him. A dark truth that hadn't been addressed. Subaru can't hold back the tears. I'm sorry. I I can't. I won't be able to make anything up to you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No matter how much time passes, you're still such a handful, son. This is the trial, and these aren't his real parents. I think at this point, Subaru knows this and is fully aware that he is probably never going to see his parents again. And there's really nothing that he can do about it. This is just one of the things in life that he can't change. So there's nothing that he can really do about this other than just let out the pain and try to move on. I still felt like walking a little more, so I'm going to take the long way home. Okay, I'll head home myself then. Subaru takes a deep breath before turning to leave. Subaru, I'm sure you have a lot going on too, so there's only one thing that I want to say. Give it your all. I'm expecting the best from you, son. Yeah, you can count on me, Dad. My name is Subaru Natsuki, son of Kenichi Natsuki. So I can do anything, and I will do anything, because your son's just that amazing. I know that. You're half of me, after all. Some very important information from the novels. Subaru very obviously tries to copy his dad's over the top personality. And Kenichi tells him that he doesn't act like that around everybody all the time. Like when he first meets people, he doesn't act that excited until they actually get to know each other. Subaru is surprised by this because he only ever sees his dad with that type of personality. So he was skipping over the step of building up the relationship. I think that's the reason why Kenichi comes off as sociable, whereas Subaru comes off as awkward and annoying. And this explains Subaru's personality perfectly. Like I said, he knows this is all fake, so his next plan of action is to go to school. Not because he is actually going to school, but because he knows this is what he should be doing. And it's not stated in any version that this he knows this and he's doing this for that reason. I think there's just enough context clues that you can kind of figure it out. Subaru gets home, changes into his school uniform, and gets ready to go to school. Oh? Are you nervous? Want to eat some mayonnaise with me? I'm not in the mood right now. I guess not. You don't actually like mayonnaise that much after all. Your dad and I both liked it, so you were just sharing it with us. What gives you that? Then which would you choose, the world or mayonnaise? The world? Obviously. There, you see? Why do you look so self satisfied? Anyone who picks mayonnaise doesn't do it because they like mayonnaise, they just hate the world. I think more than anything, I am upset that Subaru didn't inherit any of his parents' sense of humor. She actually makes a similar joke about the peas earlier in the web novel. And in case you don't remember, Subaru invented mayo in the New World. I think that's more of a novel thing than the anime. So just to be clear, Subaru does like mayo, just not as much as his parents. They fucking love that shit. They just get a bunch of squeeze bottles and they'll just chug it for snacks. And they even make their own versions of it, which is the reason why Subaru knows how to make it whenever he goes to the new world. Okay, if I understand this correctly, he stopped going to school about 3 months ago, and it took him about 3 months to stop going, which means they're about halfway into the year. I think that's correct. He didn't stop going all at once. It took him a little bit to work up to the point where he wasn't going at all. So 6 months into his senior year sounds about right. Honestly, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm not about to add this to the timeline. And why are you following me? Walking to school with my mom when I'm trying to get over being a shut in is worse than a penalty game. I'm just going to the convenience store. It's been a while since you and I walked together, hasn't it? What did you and your dad talk about? Nothing special. Just reliving the past and stuff. Hmm. And reliving the past made you want to go to school? It gave me a chance to look back on some things. So you've given up on trying to be just like your father and everything? You were always such a hard worker, and you could do a lot of things with minimal effort. And since your dad was so blindly into a lot of different things, you had quite a few opportunities. Exhausting, isn't it? Mom, just how much did you. You know, Subaru, parents watch their kids much more closely than they realize. I'm always watching you too, Subaru. I gave you a suppository once when you were little, so I've even seen your butthole. This was such a nice conversation up till now. You know you don't have to say everything you think. I tried. I tried to come up with something funny to add here, and I cannot. It is not possible. This is just her personality. She is ditzy, I guess, is the word that I will go with. The mayonnaise, too, and your reason for not going to school. If there was anything I could have done for you, I gladly would have, but it seemed like nothing I tried would have worked out. But someone who isn't me or your father did something for you, didn't they? I think that's wonderful. We should be grateful to them. Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm able to walk this path right now. They're really good people. I don't deserve them. But you won't give them up to anyone else, right? You better believe it. It's not about whether I'm good enough for them or not. If I had to give them away, I'd make them mine, even if I don't deserve them. I'd just make myself worthy of them after. You're definitely his kid. Subaru pauses at the familiar phrase. Am I doing alright? Am I living up to the expectation for his kid? You don't have to worry. Half of you is me, after all. So if you become even half as cool as your dad, you filled your quota. Get half as cool as your dad, then the other half can just be Subaru. That means you can just do your best in your own way. At least that's what I think. In my own way, huh? You can want to be like your mom and your dad as you become Subaru. Well, I'm heading this way. Will you be okay on your own? I'll be fine. Well, give it your all then. She walks off, and Subaru yells, There's something that I need to do, so I won't see you for a long time. But no matter where I am, I'll be thinking of you guys. I'll never forget you. I'll never not want to be your kid anymore. I don't want to do anything that'll make me hate myself. She comes back to him. Subaru, it's okay. I know what you're trying to say. How? Because I'm your mother, of course. Subaru tears up again. I'm sorry, Mom. I was never able to do anything for you guys. And now, we didn't have you because we wanted you to do something for us. We had you because we wanted to do something for you. Subaru tries to wipe his eyes. I'm acting like a little kid. Pathetic. There's nothing wrong with crying. You can cry all you want. As long as you can smile when you're done, everything will be fine. What matters isn't how you start, or what happens in the middle. It's how it ends. You mean as long as things turn out okay in the end, nothing else matters? That's not how I meant for you to take it. It's a homework assignment from me. Okay, well, I'm going then. He starts to walk off. His mom yells at him. Subaru, I almost forgot. Take care. The phrase rings in his head as he remembers the last words he heard from her. He smiles and waves back. I will. God damn, I love his parents. I mean, I don't think they're perfect or anything, but you can tell how much they love him and how much they are trying to help him. And I think that's part of the reason why this is such a good emotional roller coaster, because we get to see how much they care about him and how much they want him to succeed. And the words that they give him are so good for like what exactly he needs to hear in this situation. But at the same time, it's mixed in with the fact that these aren't his parents. Like he is never going to actually see his parents again. So we keep having the cathartic moments of him hearing exactly what he needs to hear and feeling better, mixed in, and then immediately getting into the sadness of this being it. Since all of this is fake, it is questionable how much they are actually like his parents. But I would imagine they've got to be at least somewhat close. Otherwise, Subaru wouldn't have been convinced. But we'll talk more about this later. It's explained better in the novels, but the running joke is that his dad is super fucking cool, while his mom is not. So if he is taking half of each, then at best, he can only be half as cool as his dad. The school is empty. Subaru takes a deep breath and opens the door to his classroom. A single person is in the room, the Witch of Greed, in a school uniform. Surprise! It was all fake. Yeah, no, I already ruined it. Next time, we'll see how the trial concludes. See ya.